Fort McMurray the first time and thought, what on earth happened up here? And now I go up there, it's usable. There's buffalo back, and I'm proud of that. We need buffalo back up there. It helps the ecosystem. But renewable energy is the way to go. But in order to fund that, we need to develop our resources. We need to be able to have a surplus. We need to be able to fund those energies ourselves. Not borrow money from the government, not put trillions of dollars into debt. We need to be able to have a surplus from the reserves and the resources that we have now today. This in turn will fund all of the renewable energies resources, and then we can progress into those and phase out our so-called dirty oil. But until then, we need those. And I know that I'm not going to bash anybody, but they say that rail car is the way to go. It's not. It is not the way to go. We have agricultural people that are using those rail cars to get their goods to other customers. And they can say that they're leasing more cars that aren't going to interfere with the agriculture, but the mere fact is there's only one railway. And if you have oil cars on it, you're not having agricultural on it. You're not having products on it. So what are we going to do? Are we going to build another railroad track specifically for oil? Are we going to have to wait until we have more oil spilt? I know Lesser Slave Lake area wants to develop tourism. That's fine. But all it takes is one car in Lesser Slave Lake and your tourism is busted. It's done. We have our own problems in the backyard. We need to take care of them. And I think the only way that we are going to actually become a prosperous, economic, developing province, self-sustaining, and proud again, is by having independence from Ottawa. To have a government that is governed by the people, for the people, and that you guys are the ones that actually make the rules, and you guys have accountability to your government. And I am proposing that. I am Suzette Powder of the Alberta Independence Party, and we want to represent Alberta in the independence from Ottawa. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzette. At this time, we're going to be moving into our question portion of this, and I just want to remind everybody that it is one question and 2 minutes per 2 minutes answers per question, and just keep it clean.
Check. Hi. Just wait for it to turn down. Hello? Okay, raise your hand, there you go.
Does it count that my wife put her hand up for me? My question is, if you were elected but your party does not create the government, how do you expect to, or how will you stand for us and make sure that our needs are addressed if you're not in the ruling party?
That's for all of them. One of them's going to win.
Thank you. If I was elected and my party didn't form government, I would make sure to obviously listen to what my constituents wanted and make sure I stood up and tried to fight the best I can for the betterment of our constituency and what we feel is important for us. There's many ways to doing that. I think we can talk to the government in power at the time, and obviously depending on what exact piece of the economy we were dealing with, we would talk to the appropriate minister involved. But the thing is that we will definitely fight either way, if we're forming government or if we're opposition, if we win this constituency and if I'm elected. Thank you.
Yeah, so certainly, you know, in that particular situation, it takes a strong person who knows the system to be able to stand up and share what is needed from their constituents. And, you know, I've spent the last 4 years learning about every single corner of this riding and what the needs are, but also learning about how government works and what the needs are and how to convey those messages. And one of those things that's happened in the last 4 years is I've built a respectful relationship with my colleagues who are in government, no matter which side of the floor they're on. It's one of the reasons why I was asked, to be quite honest, over and over again to run for the UCP, because we have a very respectful relationship, and they like me and get along with me and respect the work that I'm able to do. So I said no, obviously. And but because of that relationship, I know absolutely that I could use all the knowledge and the skills that I have and the caring spirit that I bring to the table to be an incredibly strong advocate for Lesser Slave Lake and to make sure that your needs and the needs of this region were strongly brought to the table. And, you know, definitely, like the mom that I am, persistent when it comes to the people that I care about, and would definitely be like a dog on their leg until Lesser Slave Lake absolutely got what it needed, because that is what being an village is.
What I would do, there's not a lot of things that that society can take from me that they haven't took from me already, sir. I've been a victim of the day school program and dealt with the whole priest situation, if you know what I mean. And within that, you know, I really, for me, have a strong sense of belief. And if you watch my posts and you watch what I put, I always have that fist, my daughter here, I put my fist in the air. Because, you know, in situations that I've been involved in my life, one being a homicide at where I worked, and an individual, his life was taken. I raced out to pick up the lady that was also shot and brought her inside when shots were still being fired. You know, that's the type of person I am. You know what, I like to say I'm going to be easy on people, but, you know, I have to fight for you guys. That's what you need, right? And that's who I am. I really don't back down from a lot of people. Like I said, when I met the Prime Minister, I addressed him very common, and I told him what my concerns were as far as what his government was doing to our people. Okay.
Okay, so if the Alberta Independence Party didn't get in power, if I was elected Lesser Slave Lake, I can guarantee you that I am a strong voice. I might not seem like it, shy and demure, quiet, but believe me, I have a huge, huge voice. And when I think that somebody's wronged something, I make it known. I have a very good moral stability. I was raised in a family where you speak up and you don't let people be treated badly. And I believe, truthfully and 100%, that, you know, your government is supposed to be accountable to the constituents or to the people that hire them, because basically you are the employer and I am the employee. And the accountability has to be there. And I believe that, you know what? You need to fight for people's rights. You need to fight for economics, development, infrastructure, schooling, everything that's important to everybody, because there isn't one thing that isn't important to somebody. And each one deserves the same importance. So, yeah.
Okay, I got one more question down here. If anyone wants to get my attention ahead of time, I see you, sir.
Hello, I'm Louis Belrose, Métis, French, Aboriginal. I'm anybody, I'm Ukrainian too. But my question is, whoever wants to answer it, is the pipeline. When I raise my hand, I'm working on it, and I pick medicines with helicopters and argos and stuff. That's what I do for our medicines, so they won't destroy them when they build that pipeline. Try to help out that way. But I heard all of your talk, and I'm just wondering, nobody mentioned our big boss here. That's the one that's going to decide if that pipeline is built. Looks like there's so much fighting that we'll have to ask God to help us. So what's your view on that?
No, so thanks for your question. And absolutely, the pipeline construction delays have caused incredibly serious issues for our energy sector here in Alberta. And they absolutely need to be addressed, and our federal government has to be held account to their contribution to that process. And, absolutely, I will say that Rachel Notley has been fighting incredibly hard for TMX and for a pipeline since being elected, since day one. And we know that we need that pipeline in order to get the value we need for our resources. And we talked about rail. It's a good interim solution, but when it comes down to it, to get the value for our product, we need access to other markets. Absolutely. And so that's where it comes in to talk to the federal government, to push them hard in order to advance the pipelines in this province. We've run into incredible challenges, and what it takes is pushing hard and negotiating. Rachel forced the federal government to buy TMX because that's the only way it was going to go ahead. That's the only way. It had gotten to a point at that point in time where it was going to collapse without it. What didn't work was when Kenny was in cabinet in the federal government. The Federal Court of Appeal killed Northern Gateway because of the work that they had failed to do at that point. They told the proponent what they needed to do in order to get that pipeline through, and it wasn't enough. And that process wasn't enough. TMX, on the other hand, is we're continuing to push for it, and it's going to get built, and by following those processes. And again, absolutely, our future prosperity depends on that, and we will absolutely continue to be a strong voice to Ottawa for pipelines.
I'm just trying to did you say that you were wondering if God had a hand in the whole?
Nobody mentioned God, all of you spoke.
So, for me, I probably thought that, I guess I shouldn't assume that when I identified myself as Indigenous, that's one of the key things that I believe in. And what you did is, I was one of the key environmental monitors, the lead monitor on the project, doing the same type of work you talked about. When I was talking about the oil and gas stuff earlier, I was at a rock bottom when I was a young man. Rock bottom. And what I did was I prayed. I asked for the Creator to guide me to a proper path on where I need to be. This is where I am today. I'm sitting in front of you guys, a bunch of beautiful people talking about the party and what I'm trying to do for you guys within the area. Hope that answers your question, sir.
Yes. I had one more.
Just hang on.
Okay, so I'm to understand that your question is for God or the Creator, right?
Yes.
I am a Christian, and I do follow Creator's beliefs as well. So, the same as Vincent, I could sit here and talk about pipelines. Is that what you want, or no? Just that one question? Yeah.
The other question is about this lake. It's been closed now for about 10 years. I don't know how many years, but for our grandchildren, that's the one that's going to suffer by closing our livelihood. We depend on that lake to open again. So whoever wants to open it, I'll go for it.
Can I get that?
Yes, like I mentioned, I definitely am a believer. I taught in a Catholic high school, and I think it's important that we work hard and we try to get things done through the right channels, but I agree that God will determine if it gets built or not in the end. But I think we have to basically be persistent and try to make sure that we do continue to fight for that we need it for our resources and for our province. What's killing us right now, NDP talks about the low oil price and this and that and other thing. It's not the low oil price. Oil price is in the $56 range American, which is over 70 Canadian. It's the differential of the oil price, which is caused by the lack of pipelines because they protested against pipelines. So that's the big thing that's holding us up and hurting our economy. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll come back to your question. I think in the back there was a question.
Yep. Hi, my name's Ken Cox. I have a question directly to the NDP party. Right here? I see. I would like to have it clearly put on the record whether the NDP party is planning to implement the sales tax provincially and what it would be set at. And will they implement it without a mandate as they did with the carbon tax?
Yes. Thank you for that question, and the Premier's been very explicit in stating that absolutely no, there's zero intention whatsoever of this party bringing in a sales tax, and in fact made that statement when talking to the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce just a short while ago about that. And, you know, I do want to say, though, that what was in our platform in 2015 was a commitment to taking action on climate change as a real issue. And so there was a commitment to take strong action on that. And in fact, our climate leadership plan was co-developed along with industry leaders from the oil and gas industry, along with ourselves, as to how to move forward with that. And, you know, that climate leadership plan has resulted in substantial, in fact, over 7,300 jobs and investments back into the economy. 100% of that goes back into the economy to move our oil and gas economy into the future, because the world is changing, the global oil and gas economy is changing, and the companies are continuing to beg us to work with them in order to move that into the future. So we have Husky, we have Suncor, we have the leadership within the large producers for oil and gas sitting in Texas and advocating for you know, a price on carbon within this province. So, you know, recognizing that it'd be really great if we could go back to the way things were and wish that things didn't change. But the reality is we need to move this province into the future as the economy continues to have to move into the future and changes over time.
Is there anybody who'd like to answer from the other parties? Okay, we'll move on to the next question.
Sorry, I also have a question for Danielle. Just in your opening statement, you had referred to creating about 70,000 jobs over 10 years. Currently, right now, we have 186,000 people. You and I both know that number is a lot more when it comes to contractors and consultants and things like that don't get to claim the eye and things like that. So when we talk about 70,000 over 10 years, that's 7,000 people a year. Taking currently what you guys are projecting of 186,000 out of work, that still leaves a remainder of 11,600 people per year that aren't being employed. So how are we getting Albertans back to work? How do we get these 186,000 people back to work when we're only projecting 70,000 over 10 years?
It's you're right. I mean, right across this whole entire province, but right across this whole entire country, there was a very strong recession that was well on its way by the time we were elected. And that drop in the global price of oil and gas hit every single one of us. And that's the reality of it. And there were a lot of jobs that were lost, but they have been steadily increasing for a while now. We hit the bottom of the recession a while ago. But we know that things are slow to recover and that there's a lot of people that still need some help in order to be able to move forward with that. And so, you know, certainly our diversification programs, what I was specifically referring to, that program alone would result in those 70,000 jobs. But broader than that, I'm proud to say that if you look at employment statistics from Statistics Canada over the last little while, that we've hit you know, record levels of employment for Alberta and continues to trend upward in the right direction. Beyond the work that we're doing with our energy diversification project, we're working to more broadly diversify the whole entire economy. You know, we've, especially here in Northern Alberta, know what it's like to deal with boom and bust over and over and over again. And, you know, every time the price of oil goes down, it hurts us every single time. So, you know, we're working to more broadly diversify the economy and, you know, bring in more diversification of our agriculture sector and of our forestry sector. You know, here in High Prairie, you know, we were able to support the reopening of the Topo plant. And, you know, I know that has locally made a huge difference in terms of employment. I'm really proud to be there and visit there and see the people at work and know there's many direct and indirect jobs there as well. And just one small example of the work we're going to continue to do right across this province to ensure that families have access to those good mortgage paying jobs that I know that they can count on. You know, in contrast, I think Jason Kenney doesn't care at all about jobs. He's more about the corporate tax things.
I think that's an excellent question, and just to address my fellow candidate here, she said Jason Kenney doesn't realize that. He realizes it perfectly, and that's why he is talking about doing something that's great. The job creation tax is a tax that needs to happen in order for us to get our economy going again, cutting corporate income tax by 1% a year. NDP, again, they didn't campaign on it last election, but they increased corporate income tax by 20% after the election. That, in a fragile economy, drove our economy down even more. So it was a terrible thing that the NDP did. So he's talking about doing the corporate income tax and bringing it down from 12 to 11 to 10 to 9 to 8%, 1% a year. We have to do it gradually, but that's what we're talking about. When we have economists, professional economists saying that it will create 50,000 good jobs and provide 1.3 billion to the economy. This is the type of thing we need with 186,000 people out of work. We don't need these little band-aid things that the NDP is talking about. Oh, we're going to do a few thousand jobs here and there, and they're just not in touch with reality. Thank you.
Was there any more? Okay, next question.
First fellow I saw is this guy here, and then next up is the lady in the front, I believe.
Just a question for Danielle, personally, on behalf of the NDP. Are you personally an advocate for the oil and gas industry? Have you always been? Have you ever been publicly against fossil fuels?
No, absolutely. I always have been a strong advocate for oil and gas. In fact, I was an oil field wife for many years. My ex-husband now worked as a heavy-duty mechanic in the oil and gas industry, and you know, worked very hard on behalf of our family, and was away a lot because of that, and you know, which was a huge stressor for us. But absolutely, I grew up in Slave Lake. Slave Lake is my home. You know, I turn to my left or my right, but I know that most of my friends and my family and my neighbors and the people in my community depend on the oil and gas industry in order to be successful. Which is why I think most of you here have got to know me at some point in time, and regardless of whether you support the party or not, you know, recognize that I've been fighting really hard on behalf of this community. And I will absolutely say, as a cabinet minister who was around the table, that I was not alone. That all of our cabinet ministers sat around with a strong commitment, recognizing the importance of the oil and gas industry to the Alberta economy and to ensuring that we're able to continue to provide those good mortgage-paying jobs to people here in High Prairie and in Slave Lake and Wabasca and across Lesser Slave Lake, and in fact in Calgary and across the province. So I'm personally committed. I was really proud to be sitting at a table with people who put that at the forefront of decision making, you know, day after day and month after month as a cabinet. And you know, the oil and gas industry has changed a lot in the last little while, and that change has happened in a very fast and abrupt way. And you know, I'm really proud to have continued to work directly. I've sat at the table with CAP and had the conversations and how we could be partners together, and listened to what they had to say and taken that advice and continued to move forward on that.
So then, just as a response to the question of the part, if you're such a strong advocate for oil and gas, then how can you support Rachel Notley, who for 3 years was an opponent to the oil and gas?
Anyway, I would like to respond to that. I have problems with a few things that were said there. One is that Danielle's leader, Rachel Notley, was clearly campaigning and protesting against pipelines, and there were other cabinet ministers also that protested against pipelines. There's clear evidence of that. One of the, when you say that you guys are working hard as a cabinet and trying to get pipelines built, I've had a hard time biting my tongue, because I know one of them even wrote a book about how to protest and stop pipelines. So how are we going to say that they're all fighting and getting these pipelines built when we got protesters in our midst? They're supposed to be our leaders in government to help us get our resources to market, and they're sabotaging us. So we get killed on the price differential. It's not the oil price, it's the price differential from lack of pipelines. So please, don't be fooled by this. Don't be fooled at all. Thank you.
Was there another comment?
Come in here. Right here. Oh, over here.
So, as you know, I am pro-oil, and everybody in my family is oil, and I don't know anybody in Alberta that would not be pro-oil in some way or fashion. Just because you don't work in the oil field does not mean that you don't benefit from it. You either have a relative or a friend or a store owner or a truck driver or somebody that has money coming from the oil field trickling down into your pockets. So I can't speak on protesting, and I'm not going to say any more about the NDP and UCP, but I am pro-oil field in every way.
Next question.
Yeah, hi, this question can apply to all the candidates. I'm wondering, is there any pieces of great literature in your life that you may have read that may have inspired you to lead to a path in politics, other than the good book?
Well, let me tell you a story. Literature. Obviously, everything I kind of understand and know is obviously on Indigenous stuff. So, one of the key things that I've come to understand was that, and kind of relates a little bit to this, but you guys might not find any relation to it, was General Custer. The Sioux people, you know, if you're aware of history and read up on that knowledge, is that the Sioux people were the ones that defeated Custer. And if anybody isn't aware of this, the American flag has never been taken in battle, ever, by any other nation besides the Sioux Nation. So if that's something you didn't know, that's something you know now. And that's one of the inspirations that I have to do this type of work. Like I said, when I hold my hand up, That's that victory that I have. When I dance, I'm a champion menstrual dancer, 7th in the world. I've danced all over the world, and that's what I do. I go tell that story, and I dance for the people, and give that demonstration to who we are. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not sure that any literature that I would have read would have prepared me for politics. Although I do enjoy the Occupational Health and Safety Manual. I do enjoy the driest material. Actually, I do. I enjoy reading dry material, legal legislation. It's not for everybody. Actually, I do enjoy it. I actually got an OH&S manual, the big, huge binder, for a Christmas present one year. So, yeah, other than that, I don't know what other book would ever prepare you for this.
Thank you.
I would have to say that I don't know if I'd say there's a specific thing that I read, but I think just as life unfolded, I thought I was too busy to ever get in politics. I started with nothing, and I worked very hard and tried to, I guess, get business going and do a few things. One story that struck me was a story my uncle had told years ago, and he said that the mice were all in this house and they were having a good time, and all of a sudden they lived there for years and they were multiplying, all of a sudden the cat moved in, and started eating them. And then all of a sudden the mice got together and had a meeting. They said, we got to do something with that cat, like he's killing us off and we're getting less and less. So they said, okay, I don't know what we're going to do. And one guy spoke up, one mouse, and said, we got to tie a bell on that cat, that'll fix it, and we can all hear him and we can run away, we'll be safe. And everybody, yeah, and they cheered and hurrahed and everything like that, and all of a sudden it went silent. And everybody looked at each other. And you can get the question, right? Who's going to put the bell on the cat? So that's what brought me into politics. A few people had asked me 40 years previously if I would run. They said, we need some pretty good people, would you run? And I said, no, I'm too busy running my business and stuff, I can't run. So lo and behold, we had the election and NDP came in with a majority government. So lo and behold, they asked me again last year and said, we need you to think about running, would you run? I said, no, I'm too busy with my businesses. They said, did you look at the people running our provincial government right now? Did you really take a good look and do you see what they're doing economically and everything to the great people in this great province? And I said, yeah, okay. They said, could you just think about it for 2 weeks? Please, don't give us a knee-jerk response again like you did 40 years ago. So I thought about it, phoned a few people, and they encouraged me to run, so that's how I got it. Have the bell on the cat.
Well, thanks for that very thought-provoking question. I don't think that it was a book per se that encouraged me to run. I have to say that I was a nurse in the area for almost 20 years. And, as a nurse, I knew that my job was to stand up for people, to advocate people, to fight for them, to make sure they had what they needed to be able to do well for their families and for themselves and in their homes. And I knew absolutely that the PC government at the time needed to go. They really needed to go. It was time for them to move out. And so I decided that as a nurse, the best way that I could help my patients was to run for the Alberta NDP and to make sure that the PCs went so we could start actually governing properly for this province. But if I had to pick a book that has actually guided me in terms of the work that I do, I would say my economics textbook. When I studied economics, it really talked about the complexity of how you, as a government, do fiscal policy. And it's not the same as home, it's not the same as a business. And governments have to do things differently in order to to take care of communities and people and to govern on the best behalf of people. And that sometimes government intervention absolutely is important, and that's been known ever since is in place. So, I'm proud to have those roots and that information, and proud to have that governed the decisions that we've made to, in the worst of times, to actually take care of people, to stand up for them, and to not to make a situation worse, but to actually make things better and take care of the people of this province. And I'm glad I was able to do that.
So we'll go into the next question.
Before I start, I just want to say I have a lot of respect for Vincent for not attacking any of the other parties. You're the only one to have done that so far, so I hope you keep it up through the rest of the night and through if you get elected to return. But anyway, my question is, I was wondering what everybody's opinions are of the current way our school system is set up with public dollars going into both the Catholic and public school.
Did you guys all hear that? Did you? Can you repeat that, please?
What everybody's opinions are of the current way the school system is set up with public dollars going into both the Catholic and public schools.
So funding for public and Catholic schools, I can't really say anything on what's happening right now, but I know within our party that we would accept actual funding 100% for both public and private schools as long as they adhere to our oath of rights and freedoms, which is basically that you respect everybody else's rights, no threat and no harm to anybody else. But I do believe that funding is available, and it should be available for private and public schoolings, as well as the Catholic. Children need to learn, and the education has to be set, right? That availability has to be made to all students, whether they be in private or public or Catholic.